guys, welcome back to another movie review video. Today we're going to be looking at How to Train Your Dragon 2, a DreamWorks animation movie that came out back in 2014. Today's video is going to be the same format but a little bit more different. I've noticed that the last couple of videos that I've uploaded seemed very scripted. And it was because they were. I did write a script and did all that kind of a stuff. But it sounds really weird when it's scripted because of how scripted it sounds. So I've decided that I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment where I have pulled up a brief synopsis of the movie, and instead of reading it word for word or rewriting it in my own words, I'm just going to read like a sentence in my mind, retell it, and kind of give my own impressions of the situation. Now, before we hop into the video and before we hop into what will either be the worst idea I've ever had when it comes to editing these videos, because as I'm sure you guys have discovered, I'm not the best when it comes to talking. Be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more videos like this. Next upcoming Thursday is going to be Catching Fire, the second Hunger Games video, and next week will be How to Train Your Dragon 3, as well as Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. Alrighty, so the movie begins 5 years later, after the Viking village of Berk had made peace with the dragons, and we get to see that Hiccup and his friends have kind of created this unique game that almost reminds me of a combination of racing and Quidditch. There's, I think, a total of 12 white sheep that you have to get into your hoops, and then one black sheep that's worth 10 points, and it's like this really interesting game if you just look at the game itself. Basically, it starts with Hiccup doing his normal monologue of telling how things have been going, and we see the game play out a little bit, and then we get to see Stoic kind of announce the winner, as Astrid is the one who won. And eventually we cut to Hiccup's point of view, where he's just flying around with Toothless, and he's now 20 years old. He definitely looks a lot older, and one thing that I think that the animation team does very well is it shows the aging of Hiccup and the rest of the people very subtly but very well. Hiccup's definitely building more physically, and he's also got a little bit of stubble in his facial hair. It's very clear that he's older. Eventually Hiccup and Astrid kind of meet up after Hiccup has mapped out a little bit more of the area in which he's flying in. It's very clear that he's enjoying the art of making maps, and through the help of Toothless, he names a new section of the map Itchy Armpit. But like I was saying, Astrid and him kind of meet up back up together. She makes fun of him. It's very reminiscent. It felt very much similar to how when my girlfriend makes fun of me when I speak, because I have a hard time speaking and I tend to emote when I'm speaking of things. But anyways, Astrid and Hiccup eventually come across some dragon trappers, where it looks like their tower or ship that they were in just got absolutely gollywopped by some ice dragon. And the leader of this group is Eric, and he tells Hiccup and Astrid that he's got a quota to make, or he's going to get severely injured, for Drago Bloodfist, who's planning on making a dragon army. Hiccup and Astrid eventually return back to the village of Berk and warn Stoic about Drago, and then Stoic basically makes everybody fortify the village and hide all of their dragons and just hide away because of his fear for Drago, because he had already met Drago before. And he tells them about the story of how they met, how it was like a gathering of all of the chieftains, and basically how are we going to deal with this dragon threat kind of a grouping. And Drago said, hey, bow down to me and I will solve your dragon problem. Everybody was laughing at him and stuff, and he killed them all. Every single one of them except for Stoic. Hiccup, under this kind of weird misillusion of himself, believes he can talk sense into Drago, so he leaves with Astrid not far behind him, and they go and they let themselves get captured by Eret, and Eret kind of is like really weirded out, understandably so, how he's like, why are you just letting me take you? That's kind of interesting, but okay. And eventually Hiccup's gang of friends show up and try and rescue him, even though that was not the plan at all. Eventually Hiccup kind of just goes off on his own with Toothless, and they get intercepted by this really bizarre looking dragon rider who Eret was talking about earlier in the movie, and he gets taken off of Toothless and is taken to this ice fortress, and we find out that this rider is actually Hiccup's mother, and we get to see a flashback into, you know, where Hiccup got his scar, how everybody thought she was dead, and the reason she left was because she knew that the dragons weren't dangerous, but nobody believed her, and so when she found out and had proof of it, instead of trying to fight for it, she just decided to leave because she couldn't be in that world anymore. And you get to see this really interesting retelling of the first movie in canon, in the story, of how Hiccup basically changed the whole dynamic of the way of the people of Berk. And Hiccup's mother eventually shows her what has created this fortress for the dragons, as well as destroyed that fortress that Eret was in, and she calls it the Alpha Dragon, also known as a Bewilder Beast, which has a really unique design. I have never really got why it was designed that way, but I like it. It's weird. But basically, because it's an alpha type dragon, it's able to, through hypnotic sound waves, basically command all of the dragons. Eventually, Stoic and Gobber track down Hiccup. I'm going to be entirely cash money with you, Chief. I cried a couple of times in this movie, and we get the first time I cried in this movie, which was when Stoic reunites with his long-lost wife, and we get just probably one of the best scenes in all of the movies, because it's just like, oh my god, it's so heartfelt, because she's afraid of him being angry as to why did she leave, why did she never come back, and all he cares about is that she's alive and that she's there. And that was the first time I cried. That is definitely not the last time, and definitely not the hardest time I cried. But we'll get into that when we get into that. Eventually, Astrid and the group of friends basically forced Eret to take them to Drago, because they were under the assumption that Hiccup and Stoic had been captured by Drago. But it in turn gets them captured, but then Eret is going to be executed, but then Astrid's dragon saves Eret, and it's just kind of like this domino effect, which leads to Eret switching sides and becoming like friends with Astrid's dragon. It's very like kind of convoluted, but also makes sense at the same time. And it also happens really, really quickly. That's kind of why I'm talking very quickly, so we can get back to Hiccup side of the plot. This all kind of happens simultaneously at the same time, because we also get this interesting scene where Astrid's trying to, I don't know, intimidate Drago, telling Drago about Hiccup and his abilities with dragons. But let me get to the second time I cried. Still not the hardest time, but the second time I cried, which was when we switch over to Stoic's point of view, and it's kind of awkward. It's kind of like tense situation, because Stoic and his wife don't really know how to coincide yet, and it's kind of this intense aura about the situation, until eventually Stoic starts singing what I think is their like song, or the song that they had during their wedding, and then she starts joining in, and then they start dancing, and it's just so heartwarming and so just such a good scene. And I remember while rewatching this movie, Sheridan, my girlfriend, was sitting next to me, and she was like, "Oh, this is such a sweet moment. I know Stoic eventually does die, but like at least that doesn't happen for a little bit longer." And I'm just sitting there knowing when he dies is like in less than 10 minutes, trying so hard not to cry. It didn't work. I still cried. It was kind of sad. But anyways, Drago eventually finds the island in which Hiccup and all of them are, and has his Bewilderbeast, which he had and wasn't really shown until this moment. He has a Bewilderbeast challenge the other Bewilderbeast, and they just have like this all-out dragon fight. Drago's Bewilderbeast kills the other Bewilderbeast and becomes the new Alpha, and the new Alpha commands Toothless to kill Hiccup, but as I spoiled a little bit ahead, Stoic jumps in front of it and takes the blast and is killed instantly. I uncontrollably cried here. I don't fully know why. I have an idea. Obviously, the emotions behind the scene are very much there, but there's also, like, I think what really kind of got me is the fact that, to get a little bit serious here, Stoic managed to touch and affect so many people's lives and managed to be such a good person and such a good man that he had people to grieve for. This scene specifically, the funeral scene, gravely affected me because it hit one of my greatest fears, which is to be forgotten. And it's very clear that his family and his friends and his village will never forget him. And they perform this Viking funeral for him, where he's put on a ship and lit ablaze at sea. And it's just this super touching, super heartfelt, super scene. It was fantastic to watch. If you are going to watch a movie to cry, this is the movie to watch it. It made me cry, and I know I'm a baby bitch boy, but still, it was a very good movie and a very good scene. Eventually, Hiccup comes up with the idea of using the baby dragons to go and get Toothless back and all of the other dragons back, because the baby dragons won't listen to the alpha because they're babies. And so on a baby dragon, Hiccup challenges Drago, who's riding Toothless, and eventually manages to get Toothless out of the hypnotized state. And they do this epic like fight where eventually Toothless actually challenges the alpha and defeats the alpha. It doesn't kill the alpha, but he defeats the alpha and manages to become the new alpha for all of the dragons. And at the same time, kind of in the same general theme, Hiccup becomes the chieftain for the village in this really touching and beautiful scene. And then, because it's a good movie, it has to end on a kind of lighter note, so that it ends with the same way it began, with a dragon racing game, and we get to see Hiccup win, because this game is brutally unfair for any dragon that isn't a fucking Night Fury, because they're just super fast. So the movie ends with Hiccup, Astrid, and his friends all gathered on top of the ranking pyre, and with that, it'll bring me to the next section of this video. So, like I said, throughout this movie, there were many, many times I cried. I don't know why. It's a very emotional movie. I highly, highly recommend you guys watching it. You guys watch it. I watched it on DVD because I own all of the movies. I don't know if it's available anywhere. I know it's probably available on Amazon Prime. Like, almost everything is available on Amazon Prime. but I watched it on DVD. At Target, they had the 3 set for like $15. So if you have the time, I highly recommend you watch it. Now, with that, I have to give this movie a 11 out of 10. I can't give it less than a 10 out of 10, but I think it deserves more than that. Because unlike the first movie that I gave a 10 out of 10, it doesn't have the nostalgia of it being the last movie I saw with my grandma to carry it. The first movie was really, really good and deserves the 10 out of 10 because it is a phenomenal movie. However, this one takes everything that was good in the first movie, doubles it, and adds even better shit to it. It was such a good movie, and I really and truly stand by that. Now, with that, I think it is going to come to the end section of this video. I have no earthly idea how long I've been talking, but I know that this is truly one of the best movies I have ever seen, if not the best animated movie I have ever seen. I would even say it tops the Puss in Boots movie, which I saw just a little while ago and made that video on. It is, I forgot how good this movie is, kind of a thing. But with that, if you liked the video and agree with me or disagree with me, be sure to leave a like. And if you disagree with me, tell me why you disagree with me. And if you agree with me, tell me what your favorite parts of this movie are down in the comments below. Now, be sure to subscribe. We are now on that grind to 500 subscribers. Hopefully, as of recording this, I'm at like 95 subscribers, I think. And I'm hoping over the weekend I can, because I'm recording this on Saturday, over the weekend I can gain those 5 subscribers to reach 100. So hopefully we're on that grind to 500 subscribers. But I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.